Welcome back everyone. So in today's video I'll be showing you how to implement DBT tests on your data warehouse, and we will be using Snowflake as our data warehouse in this demo. Alright, so let's get to it. Okay, so like I mentioned in today's video, I will be showing you how to implement DBT tests on your data warehouse. And the data warehouse I will be using in this video is Snowflake Data Warehouse. Alright, so before we jump into the demo, I will quickly walk you through a very high level overview of what DBT tests are. And then once we are done with this quick overview, then we will jump into the demo. Alright, so let's get to it. Okay, so DBT stands for Data Build Tool and is a tool that you can use to transform your data once the data is in your data warehouse. So generally, DBT is a transformation tool and not an ingestion tool. Now, on top of being a transformation tool, you can actually use DBT to test your data so that you can ensure that your data is of high quality. Okay, so DBT as a tool will allow users to define and enforce data quality rules through various tests. Okay, so there are several tests that you can actually do in your DBT in order to make sure that your data is of high quality standard. These tests will ensure that you maintain data integrity, consistency, and reliability in your data pipeline. Okay, and DBT comes with various types of tests, and these are some of them. The first one is called generic tests, and these are predefined tests provided by DBT that you can apply to columns or tables in your models. Actually, in this video, this is what we'll be going through. We'll be going through generic tests. All right, the other type of test that you can perform in DBT is called singular tests or a custom SQL based test. And basically these are custom SQL queries that you can write to test specific business logic or data constraints in your transformations. All right, and then the other one is called schema tests. These schema tests basically allow you to define constraints in your schema.yaml file. All right. Okay, and the last one is custom generic tests. So this is kind of similar with generic tests, but in this case, these are reusable test macros that you can apply across your multiple models. Okay, so you can actually write generic tests or custom tests in your DBT, and you can reuse this across your models. All right, so these are the 4 different types of tests in DBT, and again in this video we will be going through generic tests. Okay, maybe in future videos I will cover the rest of this, but again in this video we'll just go through generic tests, because if we go through all of them then the video will be longer than expected. Okay, so I'm just going to go over then to generic tests. Okay, again, what are generic tests? Okay, so generic tests are predefined tests provided by DBT that you can apply to columns or tables in your models. So these again come with DBT, and you can actually use them to test your data. And these are some of the examples of generic tests. Okay, so we have uniqueness check. So you can check to ensure that a column has unique values, and also you can do a not null check just to make sure that a column has no null values. You can also perform referential integrity to ensure that a column's value exists in another table. So this is kind of a foreign key check. Okay, so you can do this using generic tests. And then the last one here is accepted values check. So you can ensure that a column contains predefined set of valid values. Okay, and I will be showing you once we get into the demo for this video on how you actually implement this. Again, we mentioned DBT provides several built-in generic tests that can be applied directly in your model YAML file, and this is actually how you define the generic tests in your DBT models. Okay, so in your YAML file, this is how you can implement. So you will have your models, and you have the names of you put the name of the model that you have, and you can have the description of what the model is about. So in this case, you might have a table called orders. You can put the description. In this case, let's say the table contains customer orders, and then now inside the orders you have columns in your table. So a model is basically like a table or a view, and then so say your model has columns. So in this case, let's say this order has order ID. So then the tests that you want to perform on this order ID is to make sure that if this is a primary key, then you can say I want this order ID to always be unique and do not contain any null values. Okay, so these are the two tests that you can do on this order ID, for example. Not like make sure that it's unique and also does not have any null values. You can also do the relationship, which is called the foreign key relationship, to another table. So let's say custom ID in your orders should also exist in the customer or customers table or model in your models as well. So you can do it like this. So you can make sure that there's a relationship. So you can do this reference is customers and the field is custom ID. So what this basically means is in your orders table you have a custom ID, and this custom ID should also exist in the customer model or table. Okay, so this is how you do the relationship. And then you can also do the accepted values. So in this case, in your orders table, the order status field should only contain these accepted values. So for example, you can say this order value should only have or contain pending, shipped, delivered, or cancelled. And if there's any other value that comes to this order status, then you should throw an error. Okay, so I will again be showing you how to do this once you get into the demo. All right, so actually let's jump into that demo. Okay, so this is just a very high level overview of what generic tests are, and again, these are pre-built tests that you can actually take advantage of in your models when you're doing your transformations in TPD. Okay, so I will jump over then to the demo. So the for the demo, I mentioned that we'll be using Snowflake Data Warehouse. So I already have logged. So I'm already logged into my Snowflake Data Warehouse, and I have the account created. Okay, so again, if you don't have the account, just go ahead to Snowflake and then create the account. I think you should be able to get some free credit for some days. Again, if you have run out of your credits, Snowflake is not very expensive. You only get charged for the compute and for the data that you store here. So it's not very expensive. The compute, you can shut it down after a certain amount of time. So again, it's very cheap. So this is the Snowflake environment. And before we go into the DBT section of this, let's actually set it up. So I will be using this data warehouse called DBT demo. Okay, so this is the data warehouse I'll be using. So this is the database I'll be using. And inside this database, I created a schema called DBT tests right here. And this is where we will be creating our tables that we will be testing, or that will be writing tests on using DBT. So I have a table here, so I'm going to create a table here, and this just make a note that I'm inside my DBT demo database, and I'm checked into the DBT tests schema right here. Okay, and then I'm just going to execute this query. So this is just going to create a basic customer table with two fields, customer ID and customer name. So I'm just going to execute this to create a table. Okay, so the table has been created, and then so I'll be doing this in two stages. So I will be inserting data for the first time, and these tests or this data should actually pass our tests when we run the tests. And then the second one, we will insert some invalid data, and then we run the tests and see how they behave when you have data that is violating the tests. Okay, so this first insert here, or this first load of data, should work, because for example here you have your IDs, they are unique, and so if you are going to be testing for uniqueness in your custom ID, then this should be good. So we are going to insert data into this customer table, and then I am also going to create another table called orders, and this orders table has order ID, it has custom ID, which is going to be related to this right here, and then we have order status and total amount. And then also the same thing for the first load, we will be inserting valid data for this. So we'll be inserting order ID starting from 101 to 105, and then we have the custom ID, which is what we got up here, and this is also going to go up to number 5. And then for the orders, the order status, we have pending, shipped, delivered. So basically those are the values that we want to test for. or these are the accepted order values or order status values for this field. Okay, so again we will insert. We have inserted 5 records now on this table, and now I think that's it. That is the data. We have the data in our we have the data now in our tables, and you can actually select to see if we have it. So if for the customers, we can just query this table and make sure that we have the data. Okay, so you can see we have customer ID and the customer name, and then for the orders we can also do the same thing. So now these are the records. So in this table we have order ID going from 101 to 105, and then we also have customer ID, which is a foreign key in this table to customers. So in customer table, this customer ID is primary key. In orders, this is a foreign key. All right, and then the order status here, we have these 4 different values. So we have pending, shipped, delivered, and cancelled. Okay, so these are the accepted values here. Okay, so we have our tables now available in our data warehouse. So let's go ahead now and set our DBT and implement the models to carry out these tests. All right, so for that I'm going to go over to my Visual Studio Code, and basically I'm just going to so I'm actually logged into the folder where I will be doing my transformations. Again, in Visual Studio Code you can just open the folder from your workspace where you will be doing all of this work. Okay, so just go ahead and click open folder, create a folder in your workspace, and then you can come here and do the work. So in this case, I'm logged into my Snowflake repo here, which is what we have here, and I do have the structure in place. So let me quickly just walk you through what's happening here, right? So when you create your DBT project, it's going to create for you some sort of a general structure. So this is how the structure will be looking like. You'll have analysis, DBT packages, logs, macros, models, seeds, snapshots, all of this. Now, if you're wondering how you come up with this structure, this is created when you set up your DBT project. And in our Snowflake case, I did a video previously where I went through the process of connecting DBT to your Snowflake Data Warehouse, and I will actually quickly show you that video in my channels because it's going to be important for you, because you do need to set up your connection for DBT to your Snowflake Data Warehouse. Okay, so I'm just quickly going to show you, and take a look into this video because it's going to be useful if you want to connect DBT to Snowflake. Okay, so that video is right here. Okay, install DBT and install and set up DBT core with Snowflake. Okay, so if you go into this video, I'm basically walking you through how you can set up DBT to connect to your Snowflake. So we went through the documentation, you know, the adapter and what you need to install. So in this case, you need to install the DBT core and Snowflake and DBT Snowflake adapter. And then you go to your Visual Studio Code. You basically need to create a Python virtual environment, and you install those libraries, right, which is the DBT core and DBT Snowflake. And once you do that, then you can go ahead and do the DBT init. So okay, so you do DBT init right here, and basically you just need to enter the information for your Snowflake environment, like the database, the username, the password, and things like that. And once you are done with that, basically just go ahead and do the DBT debug. It's going to work. It's going to create profiles folder for you, and you know, in this case, this is how our profile was looking like. And then once you do that, your structure will be created, and then you will have some sample models that you can run, and then you can basically go ahead and test if your connection is working. So I went through all of that process in this video, so I'm not going to go through this in this video, but basically just follow this video and then you should be able to get your Snowflake environment talking to DBT. This is the DBT documentation that shows you what you need to install and basically how you can set up your profiles and be able to connect to your Snowflake environment. Okay, so I do have this one here for you. Again, I'm not going to go through that in this video. Okay, so once you have that, then you will have something like this in your Visual Studio Code, and this is how your structure will be looking like. So in my case, I do have all of this ready. Okay, so I put the requirements .txt here, basically the dbt core, dbt Snowflake, and now just to show you that we have our dbt talking to Snowflake. If you do dbt debug right here, so if I code dbt debug, okay, so if I run this in my Visual Studio Code, then you can see that all the tests are working. And remember, if you see this, I'm actually logged in to my Python Fajol environment. Okay, so you do need to create the Python Fajol environment, install the libraries, and basically this is going to connect you to your Snowflake Data Warehouse once you follow all the steps that I mentioned in that video. Okay, so now that you have your connection working, then the next thing is just go ahead and then create our models and do our tests. Okay, so to do that, I have created 3 files here for you. This is the customers model, which is basically querying our data from Snowflake Data Warehouse customers table. We are not doing any transformation here, it's just basically querying it. But of course, you know, in a real world scenario case, then you'll need to do some transformations on your data. And then also I'm doing the same thing with the orders. I'm basically just querying the files or the fields and not doing any transformations. And then now the actual tests, you actually now do them inside your schema. Okay, so this is where your tests will be implemented. All right, so we have our model customer here and orders, and so this is how my schema.yaml looks like. So I have put both sources here and the models. You can separate this one. So there are different ways that you can structure your DPT. It doesn't have to be like this. So you can separate the sources and also the models as well. So in my case, I'm doing everything together. So I'm putting the sources and the models within the same file. It should work, okay? So then right up here, I'm basically defining my sources, naming it Snowflake source, and we are using the dbt demo database, which is what we have right here, dbt demo database, and then the schema that we're using is this one, dbt test. So basically that means that we are getting our data from this dbt tests, and the tables that we have here are customers and orders, which is the tables that we created. And then now for the models, this is where now this video is all about. Okay, so this is where you put your tests. In your models, what you will want to do is put the name of your model. So in this case, we are starting with customers, and this is our model, customers. We are putting description here. This description is basically good for your documentation, so it doesn't really matter for these tests. So you can say something like this table contains customer information. And now for the columns, this is where now you can do your generic tests. Okay, so in this case, we have a custom ID, and we're saying that for the tests, we want to make sure that this custom ID is always unique and does not have null values. Okay, so this, when you run the test now, this is going to scan your customer's model or table and look into custom ID. And if there is a value that is not unique, then it's going to throw a error. The same thing with not null. So if there is a value, if there's a null value within your custom ID, then it's going to also throw an error. But if all are unique and no null value, then you will pass the test here. Okay. Here, this is not relevant for this, but I'm basically configuring this model to run as to be materialized as a view, and the name of the view is customers view. So you can also do things like this in your models. Okay. And then the other table here or model that we have is orders. So for orders, basically describing this table contains customer, actually this customer orders, sure, yeah, this contains customer orders. And then so inside of orders, we have a field called order ID. And for the test, we are saying that this order ID should also always be unique and should not contain any null value. And then inside orders also, we have a custom ID field. And what we are doing here now is saying this is a foreign key reference to the customer's table. So basically, we want to test the relationship to the customer table or model. And we are also saying also here for the test that this should always contain values. It should not be null. And we want the relationship to customers using the customer field. So basically we are testing and making sure that the value in our orders table for customer ID should also exist in customers. Okay, so if you have a value here in orders that does not exist in customer ID or customers table, when you're using customer ID, then basically you want to fail. Okay, so the value inside the value of customer ID in orders should always exist in the customer ID in customers. Okay, so this is basically a foreign key relationship check. Okay, so this is how you do it. So you just put the name of the customer ID, and then inside the tests you can put relationships. You put the reference to the model that you are referencing to, and then the name of the field here, which is the customer ID. All right, and then the last test that we are carrying out, or that we're checking on this, is the order status. And for this one, we are saying that the accepted values inside our order status are these ones right here. So we have listed them pending, shipped, delivered, and cancelled. So this means that for our orders, the values that should always be there should be in this list. Okay, so should either be pending, shipped, delivered, or cancelled. Now if there's any other value that is inside our order status that is not part of this, then our tests should fail. Okay, so that's how you do the accepted values tests inside your dbt schema YAML file. Okay, and then of course this one I'm also materializing as a view and changing the name to orders view. Okay, so this is how the how you can implement the generic tests inside your dbt. Okay, so again, you are basically listing the model, you're putting the model name, and then for the fields that you want to check, you're naming the field, and then you're putting the test here. So for custom ID, we are checking and making sure that they are always unique and not null. For orders, we are checking order ID, making sure that it is unique and not null. And with regards to custom ID, we're making sure that for any value of custom ID that is in orders, it should always exist in customers, and if it's not there, then you should fail it. This is a foreign relationship check. And then the last one is the order status. Okay, making sure that for the values in order status, it should always be one of these. Okay, one or all of these. And if there's any value that is not one of these, then make sure that you fail that test. Okay, so this is how our model looks like, and basically from here all we have to do is basically just click dbt test. Okay, so that's how you run this, so to test it basically. So you can do dbt test. Okay, so dbt test will run tests in all your models. Okay, so every model that you have in your, or basically all the tests in your models. So in this case we are running tests on customers and orders, so it's going to run tests in all of them if you have defined the tests. If you want to run for a specific model, then you can do it like this. So you can select the model. So in this case, if you just want to run for customers, then you can do select customers. Okay, but in this case we only have two models, so we'll just do the test for all of them. Now remember, what we expect to see in our first run is a pass, because our data actually looks good. So for order ID we have unique. These are the order IDs here are unique. We don't have any duplicate here. And for the custom ID, we have 1 to 5, which is what we also have right here. We have 1 to 5, and then the same thing with custom ID. So custom ID we have to 1 to 5, and they are always unique, and we don't have any nulls here. And then for the order status we have pending, shipped, delivered, cancelled, and these are the tests that we're checking in the orders model. Okay, so let's go ahead and do the test now. So we'll do dbt test, and we expect this to run without a problem. Okay, so there's an error here, and it is basically saying the database error in test accepted, SQL compilation error, dbt test orders field does not exist or not authorized. Okay, so I think we need to run this one first because we aliased. So let's just do dbt run first to run our fields. So basically what the dbt run is going to do is it's going to create our fields. So it's going to run the models here, and the models will be materializing and creating the fields inside our dbt tests. So let's just do that. So we run it and it's successful here, and of course you can see it the same here in our database. If you go to fields now, you will see that we have those fields created. You can also materialize them as tables, but in this case we materialize them as fields. Now let's go ahead and run our tests. So let's run dbt tests again. Okay, so hopefully now we should have our okay, there we go. So we have our tests now running and we don't have any issue here. So you can see that now that they are successfully running. Okay, so we don't have any failure, and that's what we expected. So it is basically going through all of the tests that you have listed, and it is going to check. So for example, here in the first test here, it is checking for accepted values, and the values that we are checking pending, shipped, delivered, cancelled, this one passed. The second one here, testing test not null for customers in custom ID, and that one is good, and it's also passing not null test. For orders, custom ID is also passing not null, and not null for custom ID, and then the orders ID not null as well, and then the orders order ID and the relationship. Okay, so you can see that everything is looking good here. Now let's go ahead now and do some modification to our data so that is going to fail when we run the next time. Okay, so now assume there's additional records that has come to your data warehouse and is violating the tests in your that you have carried out, okay, or that you have put in place. So let's do that. So for that, I'm just going to go to the orders. I'm not modifying customers, I'm just going to modify orders in this case. So I'm going to truncate it, and I will insert additional records here, okay, and I will walk you through this additional record. So you can see in this case what we are doing is we are inserting records to orders, and of course the order IDs, we have order IDs up to number 6, and the second field here is custom ID. So for custom ID, you can see we have 1, 2, 3, and we have null here. So what we expect is this record is going to fail when we run our tests, and the reason is because in orders, if you go to orders here, we are saying that the customer ID should not be null. Okay, so now we have a record here that is null, so this is going to fail. Okay, we expect this to fail. And then the next one here, we have 105, and we have number 6, and this is going to fail also because the customer ID number 6 does not exist in customers. Okay, so if you go to the customers table right here, we only have up to number 5. Now in orders, you are introducing additional key or additional value, which is number 6, and in our test we are saying that we want customers ID in orders to also always exist in customers table. So then customers table have only values up to number 6 for custom IDs, sorry, up to number 5, but now we are introducing additional value here for number 6. So when we run the test, it's going to run because it does not exist in the customers. Okay, and so this is number 106. Okay, so this one, this value here, you can see for the status, it has a known value here. Okay, so it has a known, and this is also going to fail because this is not one of the accepted value. Okay, and we have defined that right here like this. So we have said that for order status in order table, these are the accepted values, but now we are introducing an unknown value inside our order status, So this is also going to fail when we run our tests. Okay, so when we run this test, we expect 3 failures, and the first one will be on this one. Okay, the custom ID. The second one will be the foreign relationship test, and then the last one is this one for the order status. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that. So all you have to do is just basically run this again. So run dpt test, and this time now we expect failures. There we go. Okay, so you can see that we have completed with 3 errors, 0 partial success and 0 warnings. Okay, and you can see here the first one here is test for accepted, so this one failed. Test accepted values. All right, so these are the accepted ones, and then this failed, of course, because of that unknown value. And then the next one here is not null for orders under custom ID, which is what we had right here. Okay, not null, and we have null here, so it failed that test. And the last one is the relationship test. Okay, so you can see the customer order ID in this case also failed because of this one right here. Okay, so this is now failing as well. Okay, so we're basically getting what we expected when we run our tests. Now some of this may not be, like the logs here may not be super explanatory, so sometimes you have to dig further, but I think dpt provides you with logs, and I'm not sure if we have the log here. I think this will give you the logs, and you can actually scroll and let's see at the bottom here. I'm not sure if it's going to give us the values for those. Yeah, okay, yep, right here. So you also see the same here, and I'm not sure if it gives us the exact explanations. Yeah, so you can read through the logs, and you'll get some rough idea of why it's failing, and you know, you can just come back and correct your tests when this one happens. Okay, so you can get some information from the logs and as well as from the console here when this happens. Alright guys, so that's how you implement dpt tests in your dpt models and test data in your data warehouse. Again, I went through a very high level overview of what the dpt tests are and how you can implement them in dpt with one of your data warehouses. In this case, we use Snowflake, and again, I mentioned that we have a number of dpt tests, and in this video we went through generic tests, but we do have some other tests that you can actually perform in dpt. So we have singular tests, we have schema tests, and custom generic tests. So maybe in future videos I will go into some of these other tests and also show you how you can do it in dpt. But again, we went through the first one in this case, and I showed you how you can actually implement that and be able to test your data in your data warehouse. Alright guys, so that's all I wanted to show in this video. I hope this video was helpful, and if it was, please give it a thumbs up and also subscribe to the channel to stay updated for videos like this in future. Alright guys, I will see you then in the next video. Bye bye.